All right, so I'm a self-taught photographer, self-taught editor. I really didn't take any sort of classes or schooling. YouTube has pretty much been my best friend on this, but we're gonna go ahead and hop into a photo session and edit it completely from scratch. So we're gonna essentially build out a preset that I'll probably use more often than not. Now, to start, I will say that I did shoot this photo on my Sony a7 III, and I do have on it the Sigma 24 to 70 f2.8 DGDN R2 lens, yap, whole mouthful of things. But it's important to know first when you're looking at an edit from someone else to what gear they use, and then also the settings and everything. And I'll probably post that later on in the video. But for this one right here, I want to also pay attention to saying that my wife is the model in here. She doesn't have any makeup on. She's wearing just earth tones, and we're doing it in a very it's just natural spot. It's out in nature. She's sitting on like this tree branch that's pretty big, that was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like fallen over or something like that. But the point of this is, I'm saying all this to say, like, pay attention to what was shot in the photo, because this is all going to affect how the editing goes, but then also if the preset will be applicable to whatever you're going to be using it for. So from here, we're going to start out this photo from scratch. Like I said, I have no schooling on this. I have no knowledge of this other than watching YouTube videos and then actually hopping in hands-on and editing it myself. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up the exposure a little bit. I'm going to put it at about 70. That looks pretty good to me. The next thing I like to do, I'm just going to go straight down the list here. We're going to take the contrast and we're going to move it down to about -30. And this is, you got to trust the process, because I know this doesn't look great right now, but to me this already looks like a much better start. And the next thing I always do is I take my highlights all the way out. My whites too. I know I'm going to skip shadows, but it's the same thing for my whites. I typically start with them all the way down. If I feel like they need to come back, we'll get to that later, but this is what we're doing right now. Next thing I'm going to do is pull my shadows up, because there's always need for some more shadows in the front. This is already looking way better. Like, if we just look at the before and after right now, like we can just see so much more detail. And why are we doing this? Personally, because I think it looks good, and this is my photo, and that's all I do, is I just do what I think looks good. And so now we're going to move in with the blacks. We're going to take them down to 21. And now we're going to move on the curve right here. Now this is like my best friend, because I feel like this is what really allows you to get dialed in settings. First thing I like to do is I just make 2 little points right here. And then from here, we're going to go in to adjusting. I always pull off right here and roll this up just a little bit, because I feel like this it starts adding like this fade effect to it that I personally think looks great. The next thing we're going to do is pull this point down right here. And I'm going to want it at 29-ish. Probably looks good. Let's see when we get there. Yeah. And then we're going to take this guy right here, and again, trust the process. I know it's looking a little crazy right now, but it's going to look really good once we're done with everything. Mind you, I did already edit this photo, so this is just a re-up of what I essentially already did, just to show you what can happen. Okay, so now we're going to move on. This, I always like a warmer look in my photos, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Is I'm going to go ahead and adjust the temperature, and we're going to bring it up, because I personally think that it'll just look better if it's a bit warmer. And I also like adjusting my tint, but for this one already is where I like it. It's at +6, just to bring, you can see right here. Yeah, no. So we're going to bring it up. We're going to leave it at +6. It looks pretty good like that. Now, the vibrance and the saturation are both going to come up, but we're going to deal with these colors later, because I know it's looking kind of crazy right now. But I'm going to bring my vibrance up about there, and I'm going to bring my saturation up just a little bit, just so that it just looks good all across the board. Now, here is where we're going to actually start making the photo look beautiful. It's going to balance it out. It's going to make everything look really nice, really natural. If you ever editing, I think the color mixer is like your bread and butter. This is where you make everything look just absolutely phenomenal. So the first thing I'm going to do is my reds I'm going to leave alone for now as far as the hue goes, but the saturation on the reds I am going to pull back. We're going to pull this down to about here, and then we're also going to take our luminance. We're going to make our reds darker. I personally think that it makes them stand out just a little bit more, especially since we pulled some of the saturation down. And then the oranges usually is the skin tone of whatever subject that you have. So I'm going to pull my oranges down to about here. And then I'm going to pull my luminance down as well. I'm just kidding. I'm actually going to boost the luminance because pulling it down looked bad. And why do we do it? Because it looks good, you know? And so I pulled the luminance back up, and I think that looks a lot better. Now I'm going to go into the yellows. We can see that there's a lot of yellows. If we push the saturation, we can see there's a whole lot of yellows in this photo. And I don't really like the color that they're sitting at. So I'm going to pull them down on the hue. And then I'm going to pull the saturation down on the yellows. And then I'm going to pull the luminance down just a little bit. Now we're going to move on to the greens. Obviously, there's a ton of green in this photo, but I want a different color on the greens. That's something a bit more natural looking. So we're just going to boost the hue on the greens a little bit. And then I'm going to also, again, pull the saturation down on the greens because this photo was really, really saturated before, and I do not want that. And I'm also going to bring the luminance down on the green pretty far, because that is looking, come on now, it's looking beautiful. Teals, not really worried about. There's going to be some hidden blues hiding around here. We're going to push up, there they are right there. And so we're going to pull our saturation just way down. We're going to get the blues out of the photo, and then we're going to pull the luminance down some too. And then we're going to go into purples. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of purple just off the rip. And then the magentas, let's find them. See if they're in here somewhere. They're just barely in there. So what I'm going to do is actually move the magenta closer towards a red, which is going to be a more natural color. And then I'm going to pull down the saturation on the magenta just a little bit and pull down the luminance a little bit again. So now we're pretty much almost done with the photo. We're just going to add some finishing touches onto the photo. This is what I like to do as far as texture goes. I always like to bring my texture down some. I don't like things that look super, super sharp when it comes to doing portraits. And then I'm also going to bring down the clarity just a little bit as well. The dehaze I'm not going to touch. The vignette I'm not going to touch. I am going to add some grain to the photo because I do love grain. And we're actually just going to leave it about there. We're not going to add too much. And honestly, this is pretty much it right here. My phone ran out of storage on the edit right at the end of the video, but this is the before and the after. So let me know what you guys think. If you need some presets, honestly, just hop into these videos with me. We'll build them out from scratch, but I'm going to save this as my Sigma preset, shooting on a Sony a7 III in a nature setting. All right, peace.